A dung beetle? Who would want that? I don't roll dung. Sorry, is that solid gold? I have expensive tastes. I can see that. Wanna touch it? That depends. Is there any... No, there's not any dung in this ball. Ladies, gentlemen, and trainers of all ages, one of the biggest pastimes for most Pokemon trainers is finding shinies. There are versions of Pokemon that have a color swap to make them a little bit more unique. Some of them have really tiny changes, a slight change of eye color, something like that, but there are also some shinies in Pokemon that are just fantastic, not only noticeable, but actually making the Pokemon look arguably better than their base versions. With that, of course, we all have at least a passing interest in shinies. Whether you want to one day have a full Pokedex of shiny Pokemon if you're insane, or you just know there are one or two Pokemon this generation that you particularly like and want to have their shiny form. Shiny hunting is something you probably want to do at least a little bit. At its base chances, 1 in 4,000 or so Pokemon that spawn within your world will be a shiny. Yes, those odds are terrible, but there are plenty of ways to increase these chances. One of these ways that we've talked about on this channel before are farming outbreaks, which are rare occurrences where certain Pokemon will just spawn in massive loads, and of course this gives you a higher chance of finding the specific Pokemon you are looking for when the shiny does spawn, rather than just being some random other Pokemon. And the other are shiny sandwiches. There are certain shiny sandwiches that you can make in the game using Herba Mystica that will give you sparkling power level 3 as a buff for different types, and what this does is raise your odds of finding a shiny from that base 1 in 4,000 we talked about before to about 1 in 500, which is an absolutely massive difference. However, there are ways to game this system even further, and that is what we're going to talk about today. The shiny sandwiches that I'm talking about, on top of giving you a sparkling power buff, will also give you a matching encounter power buff. The encounter power makes it so any Pokemon of that type will spawn instead of other Pokemon types in the area. The main example I'll be showing in this video is Rellor, the dung beetle Pokemon. The thing that makes this shiny hunting method a bit more unique, and also even better odds and faster finds, is simply understanding Pokemon spawns within Scarlet and Violet. The Asado Desert over on the west side of the map can spawn loads of different Pokemon, but there are only 2 bug-type Pokemon that will spawn there. Therefore, if you eat a sandwich for the bug-type encounter buff and sparkling buff, you'll pretty much only see those Pokemon when you're in that area. This is especially potent here because the zone is sort of split in half. Larvesta will mostly spawn on the east side of the desert, and Rellor mostly in the west. So what we do is we make our sandwich, being careful with the ingredients. Okay, who the hell decided potato salad should be triangular? Let's make another one. I have never felt this much hate towards potato salad in my life. Alright, so there's a different recipe for the bug sandwich that instead uses cherry tomatoes, and this one is much easier to... Oh, fuck. And even if you miss 1 or 2 ingredients, you'll still get the sandwich buffs anyways, so it's all good. Once you've done that, start patrolling the west side of the desert, and you'll see my pop-in range can get anywhere from 10 to 20 Rellor at the same time. Maybe 3 to 5% of the Pokemon that spawn will not be Rellor. You see an odd Larvesta because it is also a bug Pokemon within the area in general, but it is overwhelmingly majorly Rellor, and so if you want the shiny Rellor, it'll be no problem to find, as you can see by me finding one less than 4 minutes into the sandwich buff cycle. Again, the special trick here is just knowing Pokemon spawns. Another example of this is Tadbulb and Bellybolt, the electric frog Pokemon. Up here in Tagtree Thicket, there is a river that runs through it, and this area is generally full of poison Pokemon, the water is full of water Pokemon, and uniquely Tadbulbs are an electric Pokemon that spawn around rivers. And so if we eat for electric encounter power, then suddenly the only thing at all that will spawn up and down this river are Tadbulbs. Of course, if you combine that with the sparkling power, making your odds 1 in 500, this becomes pretty reliable. Another one that I found by doing this that was unfortunately off camera was Toedscruel. I saw this tiny Toedscruel goes pink. Pink is my aesthetic in general. I decided that I wanted it, so I looked around its spawn areas in the Pokedex, realized that this area in the northwest of the map spawns exactly 0 ground Pokemon other than Toedscruel in its pre-evolution. I ate a ground, sparkling, and encounter sandwich and just ran up and down the path until a shiny spawned. It's easy, it's replicable, and again, all it takes is knowing the types of Pokemon that will spawn in any given area, so you can lock it off and make it so only the one that you want is able to spawn. Of course, this won't apply to every Pokemon. There are only so many areas like this within the game, and if you want a shiny of a Pokemon that doesn't have an area like this where it's the only one of its type, you'll have to find another way, right? Well, that's where our second method today comes in. Outbreaks are a well-known way to farm shinies. You can just make tons of a specific Pokemon spawn, but as we all know, outbreaks are random. They reset daily, and you get the ones that you get. So if you're looking for a specific Pokemon, your odds of getting an outbreak for that specific one aren't really great. right? Well, that is unless you game the system here too. See, outbreaks may seem completely random, but there is actually just a little bit of a formula to them. There is of course still an element of randomness, but the outbreaks that spawn tend to favor the Pokemon that exist in the area you are physically standing in when they reset. So let's say that you want a shiny Cetitan or Citadel, the big old ice whale added within this gen. It's a cool Pokemon and it gets a cool shiny, so why not, right? Well, they only spawn on the big ice mountain, and as an ice type Pokemon, you can't really use the earlier method to force them because you'll just make a bunch of other ice Pokemon too. So your best bet would be to get an outbreak for them. Except there is an exceptionally, ridiculously low chance of getting an outbreak of this Pokemon. Pretty much 0%. Generally speaking, the more areas that a Pokemon can spawn in on the map as a whole, the higher chance that there is of getting an outbreak for that Pokemon, which makes sense, right? But like most things within this, you can push the odds in your favor just a bit. If you do an outbreak reset, you have a significantly higher chance of creating an outbreak for the Pokemon that spawn in the area you're stood in when it resets. You may not get the precise one that you want after 1 or 2 resets, but it turns one that is nearly impossible, like Citadel, to show up as a doable feat. Put simply, if you want Citadel, stand in the ice area where it shows as spawning within your Pokedex, then move your system time ahead a day. If you get the outbreak, great. If you don't, repeat the reset until you get it. But because you are standing in an area where they spawn, your chances of getting that outbreak increase dramatically. Once you get the outbreak to exist, treat it like any other outbreak shiny farming. Defeat 60 of them with auto battles to up your shiny spawn chances, then eat an ice shiny sandwich, and if you have the Herba Mystica to make one of those. And then just go back and forth resetting the spawns until a shiny shows up in front of you, simple as that. And there you have it, everyone. 2 new ways to mess with shiny spawns within this game, increasing your odds, and almost as if the game was rewarding me for doing the right thing, I even found this shiny Donphan just completely randomly while preparing one of the shiny runs. Yes, just the straight up base 1 in 4,000 chances just happened to proc. Good things happen when you're doing the correct methods, even if they aren't intended, you know? To sum things up then, today we had 2 new ways to increase your shiny farm odds. The first of which is to simply find an area where your target Pokemon is the only one of its type around, and then eat 4 encounter and sparkling buffs matching that type. This one is super efficient, and then the other way, of course, is a way to sort of force the outbreaks within your favor. Unfortunately, you can't just tell the game, I want this Pokemon, and then it'll grant your wish, but this is about as close as you can get to that by just going over to the areas where those Pokemon spawn and doing your time resets while you're standing there. It isn't an exact science, but this whole system is based on RNG from the bottom up, so any tiny little thing that you can do to push the odds in your favor is undoubtedly worth your time. I hope you all enjoy these new augmentations to your shiny hunting farm methods, and I wish you all the best of luck in finding your perfect Pokemon. Remember, this game is full of randomness, but there are always ways to control it, even if just a little bit. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.